Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We'll read from chapter 4 of Canto 9, Celestial Dynasties, from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. The chapter's title is Durvasa Offends King Ambarish. Mukam karoti vacharam pangum langayate kirim yat kripatamam vande Shri Gurum Deen Tarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Parikshit was enthralled to hear how his great-grand-uncle Balram had married Revati. Please tell me more about Vaivasvata Manu's dynasty. Shukadev said, the history of Nabhag's son Nabhag is worth hearing. He served his spiritual master for many years, leading his brothers to believe he would never return to his family life. Thus they took his share of the inheritance. Listen to what happened. We thought you would remain a lifelong brahmachari, exclaimed Subhag. Nabhag shifted uneasily, disappointed by his brother's cold reception. I wanted to complete my education. Are you not glad to see me? Yes, well, we are pleased to see you again, said Subhag. He looked at the others. Aren't we? Some grunted and others looked away. Subhag said, you had a long journey. Refresh yourself, have something to eat and rest. We can speak tomorrow. After Nabhag followed the servant to the guest quarters, his brothers discussed their dilemma. It's been over 40 years, said Subhag. I was certain he was never going to return. The others agreed. It was a natural assumption to make. Their father had retired to the forest some years ago. Word had been sent to Nabhag, but he had yet to reply or return. No one can blame us, dear brother, said the second elders. Anyway, what is done is done. The properties have been divided between us. It will be most convenient for us each to give him something now. He has no one to blame but himself. He should have replied to the notice of our father's retirement. The other brothers murmured in agreement. We have to give him something, said Subhag. Father would expect it. What am I to say to him? Then the second eldest son said, when he asks for his share of the property, let us tell him that our father is his share. He will go up into the forest to look up for father. Maybe he will never find him. Perhaps father has already departed for the heavens. Or maybe Nabhag will decide to go back to Guru's ashram. He might even lose his life in the forest. Whatever the outcome, it will no longer be our problem. The next day, Nabhag again met with them. My dear brothers, what will you give me as my share of our father's property? Subhag said, hearing that you had renounced worldly life, we did not leave you any property. All that remains is our father, who is the source of all our wealth. You may take him as your share. Without protest, Nabhag set out in search of his father. It took months of searching before he found him in a small community of ascetics by the river Ganges. His father was astonished to see his youngest son. Nabhag, what brings you here, my son? Nabhag replied, my dear father, my elder brothers have given you as my share of property. His father gave a short laugh and then shook his head. Dear son, they are simply trying to cheat you. Do not be fooled. I do not belong to you. Nabhag sank to the ground, exhausted and disappointed. He did not want to wrangle with his older brothers over his inheritance. After all, they had all studied under the same spiritual master, but he felt depressed that giving up all morality, they had cheated and lied to him. He was not sure what to do next. Since he wanted to get married, he needed property and wealth to start his new life. He looked up at his father. What shall I do now? Listen, son, the Brahmin descendants of Angira are about to perform a great sacrifice. Although they are highly intelligent, by Krishna's arrangement, they will become confused every sixth day and make mistakes in the sacrificial procedure. Go to those great souls and chant the Vedic hymns about Vaishvadeva. In return, when they successfully completed their sacrifice and are preparing to go to heaven, those great souls will give you the remnants of wealth they received. Do not tarry. Go there immediately. Nabhag immediately followed his father's instructions, and as promised, the great sages of Angira's dynasty bequeathed all their wealth to him before departing for heaven. While Nabhag was loading the gold and jewels into carts, he saw a black man walking toward him from the north. The man stopped in front of Nabhag and crossed his arms. Is this wealth from the sacrifice? He asked. Nabhag nodded. Well then, it belongs to me. Nabhag stood up straight. These riches belong to me. Who said? Asked the man. The great saints gave all this to me before departing for heaven. I tell you what, said the black man. Let's take this matter to your father and ask him to settle our dispute. Together the two walked in silence until they reached the bank of the Ganges, where the elderly Nabhag still sat in meditation. Nabhag, that is the son, offered his prostrated obeisance to his father Nabhag and explained the situation. Seeing the person accompanying his son, Nabhag bowed before him and said, "This is powerful Lord Shiva." This is powerful Lord Shiva. The great sages offered everything in their sacrifice to him, therefore it is indeed his property. Nabhag folded his hands and bowed his head before Shiva. Worshipful Lord, as per my father's judgment, I accept that all the sacrificial wealth is yours. With great respect, I beg your forgiveness. Shiva smiled and placed his hand on Nabhag's shoulder. I am greatly satisfied by the truthfulness of you both. To reward you, I, who know all the Vedas, shall instruct you in transcendental knowledge. When he had concluded his instructions, Shiva prepared to leave. Before parting, he told Nabhag, "Now you may take all the wealth remaining from the sacrifice, for I give it to you." As Nabhag's history ended, Parikshit was thrilled. He said, "The desire for wealth is so powerful that it can corrupt even ordinarily virtuous people. It is a rare person who is not prepared to give up religious principles for the sake of wealth." Shukadev said, "That's true. However, one cannot attain self-realization by abandoning truth and morality for material gain. That is why this history is so important." Just by attentively hearing, repeating, or even remembering Nabhag's history, both in the morning and evening, one can learn and understand Vedic teachings and thus attain the ultimate goal of life. Eager to learn more about Nabhag, Parikshit said, "Please tell me more about his descendants." Shukadev said, "Nabhag's son was the renowned King Ambarish, who is widely celebrated for his devotion. He was such an exalted devotee that although an infallible Brahmin cursed him, the curse could not affect him." Parikshit's eyes opened wide. How was that possible? A Brahmin boy had cursed him and now he would die in just a few days. How could Ambarish be impervious to a powerful Brahmin's curse? He said, "Great sage, I have heard of King Ambarish's devotion and virtue. However, I did not know he remained untouched by a Brahmin's curse. Normally, a Brahmin's curse is infallible. So how was he immune? I am intrigued to learn more about him." Shukadev said, "King Ambarish possessed incomparable opulence. He ruled over all 7 continents of the world and enjoyed unlimited prosperity. Although such a position is rarely obtained, Ambarish was not attached to it, for he knew material wealth is ephemeral like a dream. He also knew that those who lacked devotion to Krishna would become attached to material gain and overcome by ignorance. He therefore focused on serving Krishna and his devotees and became disinterested in the attractions of the material universe, thinking them to be as insignificant as a piece of stone. How did he serve Krishna and his devotees? King Ambarish engaged his mind in always thinking about Krishna, in his words in describing Krishna's glory, his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple, and his ears in either hearing from Krishna or about him. He engaged his eyes in either seeing Krishna's deity form, his temples, or his place of pastime. Like Mathura and Vrindavan, he engaged his sense of touch in rendering personal service to the Krishna's devotees, and his tongue in tasting Krishna's prasad. He used his legs to walk to holy places and temples, and his head to bow down before the Lord, indeed 24 hours a day. All his desires related to serving Krishna. He never desired anything for his gratification. He engaged all his senses in various activities or services to Lord. In this way, he increased his attachment to Krishna and became completely free from all material desires. Kings have so many material engagements, said Parikshit. Did he give those up to serve Krishna? Not at all, said Shukadev. He performed his royal duties as service to Krishna. He recognized that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer of everything and dedicated the results of all his work for the Lord's pleasure. How could he know if something pleased Krishna or not? Could he see Krishna? Did the Lord speak to him? No, he could neither see nor hear Krishna. The Lord is beyond the perception of the material senses. Ambarish took advice from advanced Brahmin devotees and ruled the planet without difficulty. For example, he performed sacrifices like Ashwamedh, greatly pleasing Krishna. During these sacrifices, he would give much wealth in charity to the priests, who also were supervised by great saints like Vasishtha, Asit, and Gautam. These sacrifices were executed with much more opulence and pomp, so much so that even the priests were gorgeously dressed like gods. Were the priests attached to material opulence? Asked Parikshit. Shukadev laughed. Not at all. Everyone in Ambarish's kingdom was accustomed to hearing about and glorifying Lord Krishna. Thus no one even desired elevation to heaven. For one tasting the bliss of serving Krishna, nothing else is of interest, not even mystic powers which great yogis covet. This is how Ambarish, although king of the entire planet, could gradually give up material desires. Strictly engaging in the soul's constitutional duties enabled him to do everything solely for Krishna's pleasure. He became unattached to his household affairs, wives, children, friends, relatives, military forces, inexhaustible wealth, royal attire, and accoutrements, for he knew that everything material is temporary. Parikshit looked puzzled. Since he was so detached from everything, did he make any effort to protect his kingdom from invasion by other kings? Shukadev said there was no need. Krishna, pleased with Ambarish, sent his Sudarshan disk to protect the king from enemies and adversities. Parikshit asked, was it Sudarshan that protected him from the Brahmin's curse? Yes, listen as I relate the entire incident. On every street corner and in every home, citizens spoke admiringly of the king and queen. Do you know, said one to a friend, that King Ambarish has observed the Ekadashi and Dwadashi vow for one entire year? The queen too, the friend said. Okay. The friend replied, she is qualified as an exalted husband. The queen. Another companion said, not only have they observed that difficult vow for one entire year, but during this Kartik month, they fasted even from water for 3 days and nights consecutively. Still another said, I heard that the royal couples went this morning to bathe in the Yamuna river and worship Lord Hari in Madhuban. Even as the citizens extolled their king and queen, Ambarish completed the bathing with him with great care, in fine clothing, chanting the clothing, ornaments, and fragrant flower garlands. Then with great attention and devotion, the king worshipped Krishna and the Brahmins, seeing them as the Lord's pure-hearted representatives. When the worship was completed, Ambarish returned to his palace to receive many guests, especially Brahmins, satisfying them all with gifts of charity. In one day, he gave away 600 million cows and gold-plated horns and silver-plated hooves. After giving charity, the king oversaw tens and thousands of Brahmins being fed. The royal hall had long banquet tables, and the Brahmins were respectfully served a sumptuous feast. When they were satisfied, the tables were cleared and reset. More guests took their place and were served. This went on throughout the day, and when the last of the guests had left, Ambarish's ministers requested him to sit down and break his Ekadashi fast. As he was about to do so, the powerful mystic Durvasa arrived unexpectedly. King Ambarish immediately stood up, and without touching his meals, recognizing the sage, Ambarish welcomed him warmly. He led them to the seat of honor and personally worshipped him. He bathed his feet and sprinkled the water on his forehead. Then, kneeling forward, he said, allow us to serve you sanctified food to your satisfaction. Durvasa Muni nodded his head agreeably. I heard you had some function going on here today. I see I have arrived a little later. But I gladly accept your offer since I feel quite hungry. Ambarish stood up and gestured to the seat where he had been sitting only a few moments ago. Then Durvasa raised a hand and said, I have not yet performed my regulative rituals of worship. I must do this before I take food. I will return shortly and eat. Durvasa then left for the river Yamuna, where he bathed and meditated on Brahman. Ambarish invited the court Brahmins to discourse on spiritual topics while he patiently waited for the sage. Some time passed and the Durvasa still not returned. Seeing the right moment for breaking his fast would soon pass, Ambarish became concerned. He knew that to satisfy Krishna, he must break his fast on time. Faced with a difficult choice, he decided to consult with the Brahmins. Hold on, advance. I know that to transgress proper etiquette is a great sacrifice. To transgress proper etiquette is a great offense. Thus, eating before my guest, sage Durvasa, is unwise. On the other hand, if I fail to break my fast on time, my vow will be spoiled. Please advise me on how to honor sage Durvasa and complete my Ekadashi for the Lord's pleasure. The sages spoke to each other but could not find a solution. When none of the Brahmins could answer, Ambarish said, to drink water is considered both eating and not eating. Therefore, if you approve, I shall drink water to break my vow. The Brahmin agreed this was the best solution. Ambarish waited until the last minute and then sipped water. Then he sat to meditate on Krishna as he waited for Durvasa. After soon the sages returned. Ambarish hurried forward to receive him with all respect. Durvasa, by mystic power, sensed that the king had drank water without his permission. Although hungry, Durvasa ignored Ambarish Maharaj. His invitation to sit and eat, his body trembled with rage, and his face and eyebrows controlled. Eyebrows contorted into a scowl as he berated the king, who stood before him with folded hands. Are you not ashamed of your behavior, cruel man? You are no devotee of Lord Vishnu, but a proud materialist. You must think yourself a god, otherwise how you would dare to transgress the laws of religion? The startled court Brahmins tried to intercede on behalf of the king. The Durvasa cut them off. Ambarish invited me to eat as a guest, but instead of feeding me, he has eaten first. Turning abruptly to Ambarish, Durvasa exclaimed, you must be punished. Durvasa, his face reddened with anger, uprooted a branch of hair from his head and dashing it to the ground, chanted, kill Ambarish. A terrible-looking creature resembling the where was I? Durvasa, his face reddened with anger, uprooted a bunch of hair from his head and dashing it into the ground, chanted, kill Ambarish. A terrible-looking creature resembling the blazing fire of devastation sprang from the scattered hair. The earth trembled as the demon, holding a trident in his hand, tramped towards Ambarish. The king, thinking it best to A terrible-looking creature resembling the blazing fire devastation sprang from the scattered hair. The earth trembled as a demon holding a trident in his hand tramped towards Ambarish. The king, thinking it best to tolerate this punishment, did not flee. He stood calmly awaiting the demon's assault. Sudarshan, however, could not tolerate his attack. Remembering Vishnu's admonition to protect Ambarish, he blazed up and burned the king demon to ashes. He then turned towards Durvasa. The sage had watched in astonishment. The mighty demon he had conjured was instantly destroyed. Terrified for his life, he turned and fled. He turned and fled. Sudarshan chased Durvasa as a blazing fire pursues fleeing snakes. Feeling the heat burning his back, Durvasa raced away and hid in a cave of Sumeru mountain. Sudarshan soon found him out and desperate attempt to save himself. Durvasa rose high into the ground, into the sky, back down to earth, in and out of caves, into the ocean depths, and finally the different planets in order to outer space. No matter where he fled, Sudarshan's unbearable flames continued to scorch him, threatening to consume him at any moment. His heart pounding with fear, Durvasa sought shelter everywhere throughout the cosmos, but however was safe from the onslaught of Sudarshan. Finally he fled to Brahmalok. Hurling past the guards, he faced into the assembly hall and threw himself before Brahma. My Lord, protect me from Vishnu's blazing Sudarshan weapon. Brahma shrugged. At the end of my life, when Lord Vishnu winds up his creation pastimes by a mere movement of his eyebrows, he destroys the universe, including a planet, feeling Sudarshan's heat entering Brahma's palace. Durvasa screamed, protect me, Lord, protect. Brahma said, you don't seem to understand, Shiva, and I right. I seem to have lost the lines here. Right. Seeing that Brahma could do nothing and feeling solely tormented, Brahma said, you don't seem to understand. I, Shiva, and all the rulers of the universe obey Lord Vishnu. His orders benefits all living beings. Seeing that Brahma could do nothing and feeling solely tormented by Sudarshan's flames, Durvasa fled as fast as he could to Kailash to seek Shiva's protection. Finding him meditating under the tree, Durvasa cried, O Mahadev, save me, your devoted servant. Shiva waved a finger, my dear son, I and all the gods and celestial sages combined cannot exhibit any power to compete with Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. None of us can even fully understand his greatness. I advise you to seek his shelter. Go immediately to Vishnu and he will undoubtedly bestow all good fortune upon you. Greatly dispirited, Durvasa fled through the airways to Vaikuntha. When Narayan recited the goddess of fortune, the trembling sage fell breathless at his feet and cried out, O infallible, unlimited Lord, you are the goal of saintly devotees and benefactor of the universe. Please protect me who am an offender. Narayan neither showed any emotion nor made a reply. Sensing his aloofness, Durvasa tried again, my Lord, not knowing your unlimited power, I foolishly offended your most dear devotee. Please find some way to nullify the reaction to this offense. You can do everything, for even if a person is fit for hell, simply by chanting your holy name, he can achieve redemption. Narayan's expressions were grave, just as neither Brahma nor Shiva could save your life. Because they depend on me, I too am powerless to help you as I depend on my devotees. Durvasa pleaded, seeing my suffering, surely you must feel some compassion. Narayan frowned, no, I do not feel anything for you. I have fully given my heart to those devotees who worship me without material desires, even for liberation. My heart has become one with their hearts, therefore I feel merciful. I am surprised you do not know this, as it is well known what to speak of my devotees, even those who are devotees of my devotee are very dear to me. So, like we hear in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Dasa no Dasa. Forgive me, Lord, I've never realized how much you love your devotees. Narayan leaned forward. O best of the Brahmins, understand this, neither my pleasure, potency, nor the totality of my spiritual opulence holds any attraction for me without the company of my pure devotees. So this is very important. I will repeat. The Lord said, O best of Brahmins, understand this, neither my pleasure, potency, nor the totality of my spiritual opulence holds any attraction for me without the company of my pure devotees. Durvasa wept loudly, O Lord, you are also famous for your affection for the Brahmins. Since I am Brahmin, kindly protect me. Narayan sat back and folded his arm. This may be true, but I will never neglect my devotee for the sake of a Brahmin. How can you differentiate between us? For my sake, my pure devotees will give up anything, their home, wives, children, relatives, riches, and even their own lives. I too am very renounced. Do you remember how Ambarish did not make any effort to save himself when you tried to kill him? That's because he does not consider his body very important. On the other hand, you have fled all other universes to save your life and even prayed to Brahma and Shiva for the protection. Right. I am controlled by a pure devotee. Sorry, I missed this line. Those who, like you, are attached to liberation cannot control me. However, just as gentle husbands are controlled by their chaste wives, I am controlled by my pure devotees who see others' sufferings as their own and are completely attached to me, that although they automatically attain them, they do not even desire the higher forms of liberation, Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, and Sarishti. What to speak of any worldly happiness? Durvasa tried again. Ambarish is not without fault. He insulted me. First he invited me to eat, but setting aside all etiquette, he ate first. Narayan waved hand. You do not seem to understand anything. Not only is the devotee always in my heart, but I am always in his. That means I always guide them. Now you tell me, Durvasa, when faced with observing social etiquette or completing a sacrifice for my pleasure, which should have been chosen? Are not the rules of social etiquette also meant to be observed for your pleasure? Yes, Ambarish intelligently observed the etiquette for drinking water is considered eating and not eating. Do you not know that? Feeling Sudarshan getting closer, Durvasa cried pitifully, Lord, please forgive me. Narayan said, listen carefully, O Brahmin, I will tell you the only way you can protect yourself. You have brought about your destruction by using your power against my devotee. Ambarish, therefore, go to him without delay. I don't understand, wailed Durvasa. I am an austere and learned Brahmin, and Ambarish is a mere king. How can he help me? Learning and austerity are undoubtedly desirable qualities in a Brahmin. However, in your case, since you are not gentle, your knowledge and austerity are inauspicious and most dangerous. Therefore, I again advise you to go immediately to King Nabhag's son, Ambarish. If you can pacify him, then you will be saved. I wish you well. So next time we'll read from chapter 5, Durvasa escapes death. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.